Hello, good afternoon. Welcome to the Pulse. This afternoon, we are coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle. We're on DTT because we're free to on DSTV channel 421 and Go TV channel 144. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. This afternoon on the Pulse. Of patients by security man at post at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. What triggered this assault? Well, we are live at the hospital for details. Plus, we'll be speaking to management of the facility here on the Pulse. Also, this afternoon, members of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana issue stern warning to government to stay off their pension funds or incur the wrath of workers.
We believe that government out of this crisis by cutting all non-essential expenditures, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on a national cathedral. It will be better to convert the project into a national hospital.
We have details as the Trade Union Congress urges government to convert the National Cathedral project into a national hospital, insisting the project is not a priority and should be discontinued. We are live also on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter at JoyNews on TV. My personal handle is Aisha. Please stay for details.
This is a recording of a woman at a hospital, TTH, pushed down by a security man. 2 women has already been beaten. You can imagine a woman who is in labor has been pushed down by a security man. Look at what is happening. This is Ghana. This is TTH. TTH. And a security man who pushed down a pregnant woman, pushed down women in violence. This is TTH. Oh, this is insane. I'm so embarrassed about Ghana. Look at what they are doing to women. She has pushed down the woman. You can see the woman. The woman cannot even. No, this is a hospital. A hospital. And you are pushing down human beings. You are pushing down people. That's the man's standard. You are pushing down the people. Look at the woman. You are pushing down people. Oh, this is a disgrace.
On your screens, there are footages of an altercation between a security man and a patient at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. The patient, identified as Madam Salamatu Ali, was alleged to have stepped out of her ward to pay her medical bills after being discharged. However, upon her return to pick up her baby, the security man at post in front of manning the door refused to grant her entry into the hospital, shoving her off. My colleague Martina Buguri has been following this story for us. She joins us live with details. Martina, let's get a breakdown of what actually happened at the hospital.
Now, we are told that Madam Salamatu Ali put a week ago, and she and her baby were at the Nico was actually operated upon, and so she had somebody to help her while she. So they were discharged this morning and given a bill to pay. There is a machine in the hospital there you can step out. That's outside the to pay. So she said she stepped out there to do the payment, and when she was going to go back, the security man refused her entry. And she said she had her baby and everything there. She just stepped out to pay the bill. But the man went back and pushed her out of the ward and brought her outside. She said because she had been operated upon, she was weak, and then she fell to the ground. The sister who was helping her wasn't too happy and confronted the man, and the man beat her up as well. A third person who was videoing the whole process, we are told that other persons who had also come up to the scene attacked that person. And so, we are told that 3 people were attacked this morning by security officers at the TTH. They attacked their patients and their caregivers. Now, I'm told that the matter has been reported to the police as we speak. So we have to get details from the police.
All right, so we'll also be hearing, Martina, I'll have you hold on there for me and speak with the victim, Salamatu, who will be joining us shortly. We'll also be speaking with management of the hospital. But before that, this is what actually transpired at the hospital.
Two women has already been beaten. You can imagine a woman who is in labor has been pushed down by a security man. Look at what is happening. This is Ghana. This is TTH. TTH. And a security man who pushed down a pregnant woman, pushed down women in violence. This is TTH. Oh, this is insane. I'm so embarrassed about Ghana. Look at what they are doing to women. She has pushed down the woman. You can see the woman. The woman cannot even walk. This is a hospital. A hospital. And you are pushing down human beings. You are pushing down people. That's the man's family. You are pushed down the people. Look at the woman. You are pushed down the people. Oh, this is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. You can see. You can see. This is a recording of a woman at the hospital TTH pushed down by a security man. Two women has already been beaten. You can imagine a woman who is in labor has been pushed down by a security man. Look at what is happening. This is Ghana. This is TTH. TTH. And a security man who pushed down a pregnant woman, pushed down women in violence. This is TTH. Oh, this is insane. I'm so embarrassed about Ghana. Look at what they are doing to women. She has pushed down the woman. You can see the woman. The woman cannot even walk. This is a hospital. A hospital. And you are pushing down human beings. You are pushing down people. That's the man's family. You are pushed down the people. Look at the woman. You are pushed down the people. Oh, this is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. This is a disgrace. You can see. You can see. This is a recording of a woman at the hospital TTH pushed down by a security man. Two women has already been beaten. You can imagine a woman who is in labor has been pushed down by a security man. Look at what is happening. This is Ghana. This is TTH. TTH. And a security man who pushed down a pregnant woman, pushed down women in violence. This is TTH. Oh, this is insane. I'm so embarrassed about Ghana. Look at what they are doing to women. She has pushed down the woman. You can see the woman. The woman cannot even walk. This is a hospital. A hospital. And you are pushing down human beings. You are pushing down people. That's the man's family. You are pushed down the people. Look at the woman. You are pushed down the people.
All right, so those are things at the Tamale Teaching Hospital. We're told that a patient went out to pay her bills. Upon return, the security man decided not to allow her entry into the premises. That resulted into that altercation you're seeing on your screens. We've been able to reach the public relations officer of the Tamale Teaching Hospital, Aliu Zubairu. Grateful for your time, Mr. Zubairu, this afternoon. Has the concerns of these patients reached management?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Yes, we've just been informed that there was an disagreement that ensued between our security and that of a patient relative. It has to do with the security insisting for the relative not to enter, if you like, the facility through where he was. And so that has come to our notice.
Certainly, this is abuse of patients. What steps are you taking? And in fact, what have you done to actually compensate this victim and also ensure it never happens in the hospital again?
If you listen to me properly, Aisha, I said we have been informed of that situation between the security and a patient relative, not a patient.
Okay, so relative of a patient.
It
still doesn't make it right, correct?
So be it as it is, management has swiftly moved in. We are in a meeting at the moment, and we're looking at what really transpired. And then beyond that, we definitely will want to have an investigative report And if it comes out that the security did something wrong, definitely every punishment legally will be given to the person. So that is what we are doing at the moment.
But preliminary, what have you gathered as to what transpired? Have you been able to speak with at least people around as you also engage, you are engaged in this meeting?
Yes, so not to, let's say, preempt what may come out. For now, we just have the information that something like this event happened between the security and like I mentioned, the security, there is a system where a patient or patient relative access the facility. And so the security will naturally prevent people who are not, let's say, allowed to go there, especially if it is not the time for relatives to visit the facility. Yes, so it is my understanding for now that the relative came there when it was not time for them to visit. And so the security insisted that she wait. And so within that space, that argument actually ensued between the two parties.
All right, I'm grateful for your time, Ali Zuberi. Will definitely be monitoring the outcome of this meeting he talks about and also ensure that the hospital takes steps to avert such assault on patients and their visitors. To other stories, members of the Civil and Local Government Staff Association Ghana CLOGSAG have issued a stern warning to government to stay clear of their pension funds, else incur the wrath of workers. The finance minister last month hinted at attempts to include some pension funds in the domestic debt restructuring program, but addressing members of CLOGSAG to mark the May Day celebration here in Accra. Deputy Executive Secretary Kojo Kakrani says workers will not allow their pension to be included in the debt exchange program.
Pension arrangements are being changed. Even though the contributory three-tier pension scheme has begun to yield positive results, it is very relevant and significant to maintain the existing pension structure. CLOGSAG is sending a warning signal to all forces, both visible and invisible, steer clear of current pension arrangements as enshrined in the National Pension Act 2008 Act 766. He who has ears, let him hear this message. CLOGSAG is sending a warning signal to all forces, both visible and invisible, to steer clear of current pension arrangements as enshrined in the National Pensions Act 2008 at 766. He who has ears, let him hear this message. The outcry of public sector workers, especially teachers and civil servants, during the beginning of the 21st century, be reverted onto government pension under either Cap 30, that is 1951, or the Teachers' Pension Fund 1952, led to the setting up of the Presidential Commission on Pensions in 2004, chaired by Dr. T.A. Bediako of blessed memory. The Presidential Commission on Pensions was tasked to ascertain whether the observation by workers that Cap 30 paid better lump sum or gratuity and monthly pension than Senate was accurate. Also to see whether all public sector workers could be placed on Cap 30. If not, they should propose a sustainable pension scheme. The Commission made profound findings and noted that, 1, workers generally believe that pension earnings were the responsibility of the employer only. Government. Another finding, best practices all over the world showed that pension is a shared responsibility, and thus the worker and employer ought to contribute towards an employee's pension in a fully funded scheme. The Commission also found that Captete was not sustainable because it was not funded. They went on. Surprisingly, responsibilities of a worker, the Commission found this one too. The responsibility of a worker do not diminish while on retirement.
Well, the Trade Union Congress has called on government to convert the National Cathedral into a national hospital, insisting the project cannot pass for a priority and should be discontinued. The cathedral, a pet project of the President Akufo-Addo, has been embroiled in controversy over cost and relevance. Addressing workers to mark the May Day celebration in the Upper East Regional Capital, Secretary General of the TUC, Yao Ban, said the current economic circumstances of the country does not support the construction of such edifice.
The reason Ghana has had to seek IMF support almost every 3 years is largely due to the flaws in the way our economy has been managed based on the neoliberal free market ideology. We would like to reiterate our well-known position that the IMF program can never take us out of this crisis. Our history of engagements with the IMF provides ample evidence that IMF-sponsored programs and policies cannot change our economic circumstances. Another IMF program will only impose more economic burden on us. We have to change the situation ourselves as Ghanaians. We believe strongly that government can lead us out of this crisis. And the government can do so by cutting expenditure on non-essentials, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on a national cathedral. Let me say this again. We believe that government can lead us out of this crisis by cutting all non-essential expenditures, including the need to stop spending our hard-earned revenue on a national cathedral. I'm sure the president will have something to say about this. The president has always said he wants to create another Notre Dame in Ghana so he can attract a lot of visitors. But we disagree. In fact, comrades, it will be better to convert the project into a national hospital. Mr. President, you can also reduce the size of your government. Ghana has too many ministers and deputy ministers. Chobei, revenue mobilization. We acknowledge the efforts government is making, but those efforts must be intensified.
Well, the TUC is also warning that workers may be forced to demand salary increments if inflation is not tamed. Secretary General Yao Ban again is also warning they will not accept any increase in salary and emoluments of members of the Article 71 office holders.
The first thing we want to do, if we really mean to protect incomes, is to protect jobs. We need to protect the jobs that afford workers the opportunity to earn regular incomes. Too many workers are losing their jobs in Ghana because some employers are abusing their rights to hire and fire. Other employers are also taking advantage of the weaknesses in our labor law and replacing permanent employment contracts with fixed-term employment contracts. In the last 5 years, TUC alone has lost thousands of its members due to this practice, which is being promoted and facilitated by private employment agencies. That is why we have been pushing for the review of the national labor law to protect jobs and to protect incomes. Mr. President, once again, we would like to appeal to you to ensure that the labor law review is completed this year. This is very important. We have been appealing for a very, very long time, but we are very unhappy about the slow pace at which the labor law reform is going. If nothing is done, we are afraid that you will leave office and we will not get the labor law. We appreciate your commitment to the review, and we will be very, very happy that if you leave this as a legacy for the working people of Ghana. Another measure that government can take to effectively protect incomes is to...
We've been joined by labor consultant, labor expert Austin Game, and his live Zoom for more on this. I'm grateful for your time, Mr. Game. The TUC and CLOCSAG have raised two concerns. First, about their pension fund, and also the salary and emoluments of members of Article 71 office holders. Now, what are your thoughts about the concerns? I'll pick your thoughts on that, but then first, I want you to tell me about organized labor's request for increase of salary if the inflation is not tamed.
Well, thank you so much. First of all, let me wish working people and my own workers the best of everything as we bend the corner into another period for the year 2023. I wish them well. Now, pay increase cannot be done in vacuum. I agree that inflation has always been a concern, a bane for working people and the general public. We do not even have to wait for only inflation. There are several ways that it affects, like changes in our taxes, and many other things can definitely make us suffer loss of income. So when you get to the table, what are the things that can be considered? First and foremost, it's about the business itself. My friend, the Secretary General, talks about sustainability and protection of jobs. Yes, that is the paramount thing to do. If we can protect the jobs, it will come from how we produce and how we market and the income we generate as the people to enable us to distribute, or if you like, disburse. So clearly, I am in agreement, save that inflation must be handled from a different angle. That's why we set up in the law a National Tripartite Committee that can look at all those parameters, if it will mean talking about it in a more, inclusive manner that would support government in office to tame the inflation. Yes, it can be done, but not as a measure of increasing pay. Pay is increased by productivity and other variables. And that's my beef about that aspect of it.
Well, All right, go ahead, Mr.
No,
Ghana.
go ahead.
In all of these, I want us to talk about the pension funds of workers, which government is eyeing to include in the domestic debt exchange. The workers say it will worsen their plight. What avenues are available for workers to press home their requests for government to exclude them?
Well, they are the owners of the money. I mean, this one is not negotiable. It's not a debatable issue. Maybe it is the capacity to handle it in a different way that matters. If I were in their shoes, this is not a matter for negotiation with a third party. It's our money. We have given it to you on a certain conditions and terms. So don't include it in the IMF request. That's just about it. If there is something else that can be done, let's talk about it. Something else, too, because this is Ghana, we all dwell in it, and therefore, if there is any way that we can help without damaging our resources when we come on retirement, all the best for everybody.
Well, they say they will not accept an increase of salary and emoluments for Article 71 office holders. Their reason is simple. If government says its hands are tied in this economic crisis we find ourselves, then there's no need to increase salaries of those who are in charge of affairs. Your thoughts on this?
Well, there will have to be some appreciation of what is going on with Article 71 people. They are also workers. That's number one. I repeat, they are also workers. Save that they are titled political workers. That's just about it. And because they are workers, they could also join the same union for the union to negotiate for them. If they join them, they cannot say that they will not negotiate for them. I have led negotiations for the unions before. Organized labor has always had a representative on the committee that is to be set up under the Constitution of Ghana, and they review it. Indeed, pay have been increased for working people across the country by tradition and practices. Article 71 office holders, particularly members of parliament and ministers of state, they don't have their emolument changed just every year like they do for others. We wait till it's about time for the exit of a government, then a committee is hurriedly put up and they try to do something. And because of the back pay associated with whatever percentage that have been given, it is as though they have carried the whole Bank of Ghana into their homes. It is not correct. And therefore, we have to be measured in such demands. I'm saying so because Article 71 office holders are working people and they must be paid. And they can also decide to go and engage a consultant to lead them. Consultant like organized labor is a consulting organization. People affiliate it to lead them. And so saying that they should not. What maybe they are talking about is if Article 71 office holders are going to get the kind of Russia they get, then that is the concern they are raising. Even that, it has to be discussed properly. Because we expect them to work, yes. Every 4 years, they have become class 1 people. You can be described as having gone through a 4-term kind of term in the House. But it doesn't really matter. As soon as you are voted for and you return, you are back to square one, as though you are now coming in new, even though you have the experience. And so it has to be understood from that perspective. And we must have, because of lack of inclusivity and having a good conversation about this subject matter, we are always a bit jaundiced about it. Let's confront the issue properly, have a good conversation about it. I'm not going to go to Parliament today or tomorrow, so I'm not speaking for myself. Let's be professional here.
But would you blame workers whose salaries have not been increased for quite some time now, but have to actually meet the demanding situation of skyrocketing prices of goods and services just to put food on the tables of their families? And would it be fair for them to say that if Article 71 holders' salary will be increased, then workers' salaries must also be increased?
But two sides of the coin. first part of the coin is that workers' pay have been increased and inputted into the budget already. That the same percentage can be visited or a reduced percentage can be given to the same Article 71 people who are also workers. I maintain that. It's very, very important. The second part of the coin is this. What we need urgently in Ghana is high-quality leadership. We don't just need leaders to occupy any of the offices in Ghana. We need high-quality leadership. And who can think outside the box and make the directive principles of state policy as contained in the 1992 Constitution the cornerstone of what we should be doing in this country. We don't need any special manifesto. We don't need any special policy. The whole directive principles of state policy is a complete policy. All we need to do is to flesh it. What leaders are doing and damaging this nation, they must now be told in no uncertain terms that those days are past. And we should not allow them to take us to the cleaners the way they have taken us again. The way we would expect the leaders to come on board now, especially in 2024, there has to be a complete paradigm shift from the traditional mechanistic way of thinking and doing things in this country. We must discover what is in the Constitution, the directive principles of state policies, and the related policies, and put our dreams on the front burner for all of us to see, so that we can find a way of designing a workable and a doable system cost effectively to enable us to take our destiny into our hands and not become slaves to IMF any longer. That I agree with the organized labor. No more. And so the 2024 election will not be held under the canopy of a traditional partisan myopic approach to we belong to this, we belong to that. No more. I will get into the trenches with you people. We'll talk about it extensively in a civilized way. No business of we are from this region and this region. I would lead a crusade. I would tell the people of the Volta region, of the people in Ashanti region, in the Central region, wherever. Let us be very, very open. No more traditional voting. Because our leaders have misled us too much. And I'm not going to go into the past as people do. Let's stay focused today and project forward what we want to do. And that is the way we should go. No more traditional thinking. No more mechanistic approach to anything. It has to be organic. We must think outside the box. And we need leaders. If you think you are going to stand election, I don't care whoever. If you are not going to come out with a dream that all of us will design a system that will make it workable and will take the destiny of our unborn children into account, forget about it. Go and sleep somewhere. That's the point.
I'm grateful for your time. Austin Game, he's labor expert, and he's with Austin and Austin. And he's been talking about the demands of workers and how government must act swiftly to deal with the situations that confront us. Let's now listen to the president's response to the concerns of organized labor.
In spite of the difficulties, the difficult challenges government employers face, this was made possible through consensus building to ensure businesses attain high levels of employment to hasten economic recovery. This is no mean feat, as it is the first time in the history of the determination of the national daily minimum wage that the parties agreed to the payment of COLA after wage adjustment for the year has already been agreed. This is an indication of our collective resolve to protect workers and their standards of living. You would also recall that this year began with government and organized labor concluding negotiations on the 2023 base pay and pay point relativity for public sector workers in January 2023. Following a series of consultations and consensus building within the Public Services Joint Standing Negotiating Committee, the base pay on the single spine salary structure was increased by 30% over the 2022 figure, effective 1st January 2023. Indeed, the 30% increment of the 2023 base pay is the highest since the introduction of the single spine salary structure in 2010. Government which is committed to improving the lot of workers and their dependents. In the wake of the current global economic crisis, it has become even more imperative to protect workers. Our collective responsibility in achieving this objective is important, and it is for this reason that I consider the theme for today's celebration, protecting incomes and pensions in an era of economic crisis, our responsibility, as most appropriate. Secretary General, organized labor, it is evident that this current global crisis is the worst crisis the world has experienced in the past 50 years. In spite of the damaging effect of the crisis, we have managed to protect lives, livelihoods, and jobs, and kept the lights on. The crisis is having a profound impact on national economies and societies. Incomes, pensions, and investment funds are equally being affected.
We're live on the Pulse this afternoon. We'll take a break. When we return, there's more coming up shortly. Welcome back to the Pulse. And in the next 2 months, over 2,000 Christian businessmen and women across the globe are expected to converge in Accra to mark the 2023 Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International World Convention. The focus of the convention is to discuss investment opportunities to maximize the fortunes of Ghana. Thankfully, we're joined in the studio by Chairman of the 2023 World Convention Planning Committee, Mr. George Pra. He is also a former national president of Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International Ghana. Good to see you, Mr. Pra. So first, let's talk about who you are as Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International and what's your ideal profile of a member of the FGBMFI.
Thank you very much. The Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International is a worldwide fellowship, probably the largest Christian businessmen's organization of its kind. We are basically Christians, we believe in God, and we seek to bring fellow business people, professionals in the marketplace to a deeper relationship with God. That's essentially what the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship is. It's basically evangelical, but we do business, we're professionals, and we seek to imbibe the principles and the values of Christianity in our everyday working life.
Okay,
that's
including your business life.
Including our business life.
So just 2 months ago, Ghana had the privilege actually to produce a first African president of the FGBMFI. Now Ghana is hosting this year's World Conference. Did this have any connection, in choosing the venue for the conference?
Not really. The venue was actually chosen about a year ago.
Okay.
Ghana was privileged amongst the over 120 countries of the world where Full Gospel is present to be elected to host the World Convention. And this is historic because it's only the second time in the history of our 71-year-old fellowship that the convention is coming to Africa. A few months later, as God would have it, there was the election of a new international president to lead the Worldwide Fellowship. And a Ghanaian, one of our own, was elected, who becomes the very first African president of the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship in our entire 71-year history of the fellowship.
Okay. So this particular one, I mean, just as you stated, it wasn't deliberate because it was chosen before that happened.
That is correct.
But if we're talking about a convention, usually convention is actually where Christians meet and then sing, praise God, listen to motivational speakers. I mean, what will be different in this 2023 convention?
Well, we are not a church, for one.
Okay.
We are a marketplace organization of Christian businessmen and professionals. And our conventions, although we will sing, we will praise, but the focus of our convention is on what we do as a layman's fellowship, marketplace-oriented business people, professionals who do business. They discuss their professions, and they do all this under the auspices of the Word of God, which is the Bible. And so at a convention like this, in as much as the focus is not on the singing, worshiping, and praises, as would be in a typical church convention, ours is on the substance of the fellowship, the values of the fellowship, the vision, the mission of the fellowship, which is essentially to carry these principles into the marketplace in practical ways that impact business, impact our lives, impact the community, and indeed impact the nation, as the fellowship has done over the 71 years of its existence.
Okay. But indeed, it will be a shame, or if not a disaster, for you to actually meet for a whole week to sing, praise God, and do all of that for a week and not actually get some business ideas from it. Is there a deliberate plan for networking, for instance, at this event?
Indeed, there is. One of the high points of this convention is what we call a business expo and a business seminar. Throughout the 3 days of the convention, they will be running at the Accra International Conference Center an expo where people from businesses from Ghana, professionals from Ghana and outside Ghana will have the opportunity to showcase what they do. Now, as part of this program, there's a particular day on the Friday, the 14th of July, the afternoon, there'll be a business seminar. This is a 3-hour program where we would have talks by business people on specific business subject. If indeed the theme of the business seminar is business with integrity and ethics in the 21st century. Very current, very vital to the times we find ourselves in. And after that seminar, there'll be what they call a networking cocktail. So throughout the convention, business people from outside of Ghana have the opportunity to network together, see how they can expand their businesses, look for opportunities for investment, and so on and so forth. You can imagine that with as many as 2,000 business people from all over the world congregating in Ghana. It's not just for the 3 or 4 days of the convention. They will stay on, they will interact, they will look for opportunities, they will network, and hopefully there will be positive investment outcomes out of this convention.
And they coming across the world, coming to Ghana, we'll be talking about how we're going to be promoting our culture, our history, and all the good things we have to show to the world. But also you've been talking about a forum that seeks to champion your values, your vision. Let's talk more about this vision and values.
Absolutely. Indeed, throughout the theme for the convention as a whole is empowered for service. And our values as a fellowship are to make the tenets of our faith impact, bring transformation actively to to the marketplace. And so the themes, various themes and presentations by speakers on the convention will be geared towards leaving impact on business, impact on nation, impact on our membership and the marketplace as a whole. Now, what do I mean by impact? We are looking at, for example, the fact that it's an empowerment convention. Empowerment is the theme. Means that it's not just a come, sit, listen, but come, receive, take out, and go and impact. An impact in terms of transformation of society, of situations, of business, of professions, and so on and so forth. Okay. So that you'll find that in our programming, there is a whole session that will deal with finance, personal finances, corporate finances. We will deal with leadership that impacts. And of course, we will deal with family life, because leadership, transformation, change starts from the home. And so these are very important high points of the convention that we'll be addressing.
Let's talk about the speakers for this event. What are their special areas of ministry?
Well, we have about 4 major speakers, and then we have, I wouldn't call them minor, but speakers who will be handling the workshops. Now, some of these speakers are very well known. For example, Apostle Joshua Selman, very well known in Ghana, chosen because of the incredible passion that he has for the marketplace when it comes to things of God. So he is one of our key speakers coming from Nigeria. We have a businessman, a prominent businessman from Argentina, Angel Caputo, who is coming from the business perspective. And then we have a prominent lawyer from South Africa, a lady, Dr. Pearl Coupe. She's a passionate activist when it comes to women empowerment, and she is incredibly gifted in transformation, themes that bring transformation to entrepreneurs. So we'll be looking at impacting the women entrepreneurs in our country and other areas, women, children, family. So she's coming from South Africa. And then we have another well-known evangelist from the USA, in the person of Joan Hunter. She has a proven ministry in impacting healing. So you find that there's diversity of speakers from different parts of the world with different areas of focus, all with the intent of leaving us with a sense of having been empowered as Christians to make impact in the marketplace.
And of course, as I indicated earlier, I mean, getting to know business partners across the world and networking also means selling our Ghanaian culture, our Ghanaian history to the world. What do you, I mean, what's the plan to actually do that, including our tourist sites and all the things we have? I mean, the Ghanaian hospitality.
Absolutely. I think the proverbial Ghanaian hospitality has to be powerfully showcased in a convention like this. And so at the convention, there's, for example, an Africa Day where we would showcase African culture, African Christian values, and what we believe God has been doing over the years to impact Africa. So we'll hear people's stories, people's experiences told. Now, that apart, at the opening ceremony, we want to make it a wholly Ghanaian affair. So Ghanaian culture will be powerfully displayed. And then our guests are coming not just for the 4 days of the convention. Some have indicated that they want to be here for 2 weeks. They have never been here before. So there's a whole mix of tourist attractions, tourist packages for them to indulge in, so that either before the convention or after the convention, we will let them see Cape Coast, we'll let them see our beaches, we'll let them see our gardens, we'll let them see all the beautiful things that Ghana has to offer. So there are different tour packages that have been arranged and are already actually being marketed for them. Okay. So there's quite some excitement out there in the world, and a lot of people want to come to Ghana just because of this convention.
Full Gospel Businessmen Fellowship. Yes. I mean, your original mission actually was to call men back to God.
Absolutely.
And of course, your founder, Demos
Shakarian.
Shakarian, must have a reason for actually saying that it was a men's fellowship. So, I mean, why is the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship now allowing the influx of women into this fellowship?
Okay, now you will appreciate that this is a fellowship that was born in the early 50s, 1952 to be precise. And Demos was very much a businessman. In fact, he was actually the wealthiest, dairy farmer in his day.
Okay.
He had a passion for the things of God. He sponsored crusades and so on and so forth. But he recognized that there was something peculiar about business people. When they became successful, they forgot about God, had no time for the things of God. They had a knack of dropping their wives in church and then disappearing to the clubs, hotels, and other things to have fun. This was very much the order in the day. And so his passion was to find a way to call men back to God. Hence, our unique strategy of hosting meetings in restaurants, in hotels, the very places that people like I, who did business, no time for church, no time for things of God. But we will be attracted to a breakfast or a dinner, a meal, a business meal, and hear the stories of what God is actually doing in the lives of other people. So that's the strategy. Now, why men? Because at that time, it was predominantly men who did business. Of course, fast track, things have changed. And so when we speak of Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship today, we talk of men and women, because there are a lot of women, very successful women in the business world today. But sure, we cannot exclude them. So it's a generic businessmen's fellowship. And we have a lot of prominent women in Ghana, some very prominent leaders in very high places. And the impact on some of the women in our nation, you'll be amazed at what the fellowship has done for them, how much they contribute to the work of the fellowship.
Would you
today.
consider changing your name and actually adding women to the name?
What do we consider?
Full Gospel Business, probably men and women fellowship.
I think it's so long as we all accept that it's businessmen, generic businessmen.
Or once you're a woman and you are into business, you become a man.
Stay a woman, do a fantastic business work as a business, as a woman, and be part of our fellowship. You see, we have what we call the ladies of the fellowship, which is essentially the ladies' part of our fellowship. Okay. This is where the ladies are seen as playing a supportive role to the men of the fellowship. Okay. But at the convention, for example, we have a whole ladies' conference, which will be solely geared towards the issues of ladies. Okay. And we are trusting that even our speaker, after the convention or before the convention, will have an opportunity to engage with some of the major women's organizations in our country, especially in the area of entrepreneurship.
So the FGB MFI is becoming a formidable force. Do you foresee it as becoming a pressure group? Actually interested in issues like integrity and morality, going forward?
Absolutely, but I wouldn't call it a pressure group. Okay. I would call it an influential group.
Okay.
Because already we champion the values of ethics, of morals, all the values of the Bible talks about, we champion. Okay. We have done, wonderful, webinars. We've had presentations in schools, colleges, to the judiciary, to police, to customs, on the theme of ethics and integrity. Very important issues in our time. But this is the advantage that Full Gospel brings to the table, because we are non-denominational. We come from all churches. So we can go anywhere and we are accepted anywhere we go. Our focus is not on the denominational barriers that have been limiting. It's on the person of Jesus and his values. And you can carry that anywhere in the world. And that's the strength we have.
Let me ask you this. In all the conversations about corruption and how to end it and where we've started and where we are, the voice of Full Gospel Businessmen Fellowship International hasn't been heard. Are you not interested?
Far from it. We are very, very interested. But let me tell you how the voice is heard effectively. Okay. It's not simply by standing on platforms or writing articles and making noise. Okay. It is by actually doing. And how do we do this? We reach out to business people, we reach out to professionals, and in the teachings and the trainings we get, we are going beyond making noise. We are touching people's hearts and people's lives. That's how values are transformed. And when the heart is touched and the transformation is achieved, that business person or professional carries it to his business and to the marketplace. Okay. And so you will actually find in the history of this country, since the fellowship came, there's been so many influential people in our nation who have been impacted, who have become members or have been impacted by the Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship. Okay. It's not always overt, making noise. I'll tell you, for example, in my chapter of the fellowship, at one point in time, there were as many as 5 Supreme Court judges in this country who were members of the fellowship. We have impacted and continue to impact leadership in the military, in the medical field, engineering, business professionals, and certainly in the judiciary. So it's a silent voice, but it's powerful, it's impactful because it deals with the heart and it's just not noise making. And it's the multitude of people like that, touched and transformed in the actual marketplace, doing their normal work, but showing that there's a difference. And that's the values that they depict, that they act, they do their work with. And that's how we believe nations get transformed.
So now you have the Business Development Directorate as
That's
part
correct.
of your outfit. Isn't that actually mixing business with religion?
Not really. I don't see any reason why you wouldn't want to mix business with
religion.
You call it religion. Okay. I call it the values and principles of Jesus. Okay. I make that distinction because religion has a certain connotation. It has, of course, principles and rules and regulations and so forth. But you see, our Lord Jesus broke it down so simply. Ordinary men going about doing ordinary things. No trappings of religion hanging over them. Okay. Just ordinary people in the marketplace. But the religion is in their hearts. How they speak, how they act, how they conduct themselves. And I think that is what it should be. And so, yes, business people, because as I said, we're a fellowship of professionals, business people from diverse parts of the world. But the Corporate Business Development Directorate in our fellowship focuses on promoting business people, focuses on reaching out to business people, focuses on discussing the issues that pertain to business people. So it's just a wing of the fellowship. Okay. Yeah, it's bigger than just that. But an important wing as well.
All right. So
they are hosting, for example, the expo I talked about, and they are reaching out to the business community in Ghana to come and exhibit their products and services during this World Convention.
Let me take you back to the World Convention. When is it coming up?
The convention is coming up on the 13th of July and finishes on the 15th of July. Okay. Now, just on the day before the convention, we also have what we call the International Directors Meeting, where all the international directors of our fellowship will be gathered in Accra to deliberate on the issues of the fellowship. So
among the numerous requests you want to put before God, which among them, which particular one is on the hearts of your fellowship?
I think it's very simple. The heart of our fellowship is that all men, and by that I mean men and women, will be called back to God. And by that, we're not saying that all men and women wear, clerical clothes and become priests. No. All we're saying is that all men and women begin to take more seriously the power, the presence, the love of God in their lives, so that our lives, our business lives, professional, family life, will be ruled properly under the influence of the values of God. That is what we believe transforms a society. That is what we believe the prosperity of our nation depends on. And so we are calling all men and all women in Ghana to this convention to come and have a taste of what God. The interesting thing is that at the conventions, we hear experiences, we call them testimonies from all over the world. And it's amazing what God is doing throughout the world with ordinary people like you and I. It's amazing. We have the notion that we have to wear a collar, become preachers or propagators of the values of Jesus. The values of Jesus are best propagated through our ordinary lives, our working lives as professionals.
Mr. George Pra, I'm grateful for your time. He is the chairman of the 2023 World Convention Planning Committee. He's also former national president of Full Gospel Businessmen's Fellowship International Ghana, and he wants all our businessmen and women to come back to God in July. Thank you so much for
Thank you
coming.
very much.
Let's move on to other stories, and you are to brace yourselves for a hike in the prices of selected goods as the Excise Duty Amendment Act goes into effect today, as well as the Income Tax Amendment Act. These two taxes were passed by Parliament together with the Growth and Sustainability Act, despite fierce resistance by the minority in Parliament and industry. Parliamentary Affairs correspondent Kwekwa Asante has more.
The Excise Duty, Growth and Sustainability Levy and Income Tax Amendment Acts are going into effect today. The taxes were opposed by the minority in Parliament and industry players, but were passed anyway. In particular, the Excise Duty Amendment Act imposes a 20% tax on mineral water, non-alcoholic beer, energy drinks, fruit juices, and other non-alcoholic drinks. There will also be a 50% tax on spirits, including akweteshi, cigarettes, and e-smoking devices. The Income Tax Amendment Act provides that winnings from betting, lottery, and games of chances will also now be subject to a 10% withholding tax at the point of payout. Deputy Finance Minister Benos Yasari defended the tax measures.
What government is seeking to do is to make sure we put some percentage on sugary items, like the fruit juice that contains sugar. That is what government seeks to do here. So government is also looking at protecting the health of its citizens.
Minority Leader Dr. Kisela Toforson, who led his group's opposition, said the taxes will worsen the plight of the ordinary Ghanaian. Meanwhile, Guta says it will pass on the cost to consumers.
The business that we do not do in isolation. We do with the consuming public. So whatever affects the business community, the rippling effect goes to the consumer.
These taxes have been touted as key to revitalizing the economy.
The consumer certainly will be feeling the impact of these new taxes because the cost will be passed on to them. But how much and many more of these taxes can they bear? Executive Director of the Consumer Protection Agency, Kofi Kapito, is worried about the turnout of events. He spoke to my colleague Benes Aboubeidulansa on News Desk.
I'm saying is, look, we live in a country, right, where government goes and borrows money from international markets. And the government brings it back instead of putting it into a better use for the money to generate returns so that they can pay the monies that they borrow back. We put it in the social intervention, places that we cannot even collect or make revenue out of it. Look, what I'm saying is the consumer in Ghana today, it is at a stand that is very, very critical because we are being pushed all aspects. And if you push anybody against the wall and they hit the wall, they won't have anywhere to go but to come back at you. My issue is government should be responsible. That's the reason why we vote for a government. I don't expect government to make mistakes where it is clear that 90% of Ghanaians, apart from the government and his appointees, don't see that time has come for government to cut down on its expenditure. In any civilized economy, the first thing government does is to look at themselves and say, look, let me cut down first so that the rest of the people will support me. I'll give you an example. Look, in the United Kingdom, it got to a time that they wanted to increase the salaries of the prime minister and parliamentarians. Independent body is the one that reviews that salary arrangements. At that time, Parliament has passed the law to cut down on social amenities for the people of the United Kingdom. The independent body said that it is not going to increase salaries for the Prime Minister and his appointees. In Ghana, rather, they increase their salaries. Okay, they don't stop flying business class, buying land cruisers, living in government bungalows rent-free, electricity-free, water-free. So the question is, how do you pay the money back? And then you tell me the consumer who hasn't done anything. Look, now people's investment has been touched. Other things that were benefiting Ghanaians, we don't even have it anymore. But the government is afraid. And that's why I say that the government of Ghana, including the local governments, are very, 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 very much afraid. Because maybe they own the properties. Why can't we say we are going to do proper property valuation and tax properties well? In a country that properties are being sold, $5 million, $2 million, $1 million, $500,000, and the property rates on them is not even equivalent to even 1% of the value of the property.
And on your election headquarters, former head of prosecution at the Police Matter Transport and Traffic Department, the Ashanti region, is on a mission to win back the Bunduri constituency for the National Democratic Congress. The party in 2020 lost a seat to the ruling NPP, a defeat many attribute to divisions in the NDC at the constituency level. Chief Inspector Isufu Mahmoud believes his candidature offers the NDC the chance to win as he comes in as a neutral forced to feud in factions. Nana Ojima has more.
The former MTTD officer exited the police service early this year to go into private legal practice. Having served since 2003, he rose through the ranks of a constable to chief inspector. The former MTTD officer exited the police service early this year to go into private legal practice, where he retired as head of prosecution voluntarily. Mr. Mahmoud, who migrated from his Bunduri home to Kumasi in search of greener pastures, had to take up menial jobs until he entered the police service.
We were engaged in labor farming for survival. In some cases, we were into truck pushing, loading of vehicles. And the last thing that I did before joining the police service was into construction. Carrying of a mortar, those concrete was at this place complex just here. And so it was through that I got wind of information that they were coming to do police recruitment at Patasi, the police depot here in 2002.
Presently, Abanga Abdullain of the New Patriotic Party wields power in the constituency, having won the seat from the NDC candidate Robert Baba Kuganab Lem in 2020 election with a margin of 454 votes. Poised to contest the former MP in the NDC primaries, Mr. Mahmoud believes he is best fit to unify the party for victory in the 2024 general election.
And I have started by making a good approach to both factions, that is the former MP and then the former chairman, letting them know the challenges or the problems they have brought to the NDC and Ghanaians as a whole. By losing that seat to the MPP, I have engaged the grassroots and they are all yielding for my coming. Yes, you are a neutral person. We don't doubt you. You are very competent, hardworking. And so I have no issue with any of the factions. I have no issue with any of the grassroots, apart from some few challenges that, yes, I was not in active politics, but that notwithstanding, they don't doubt of my hard work.
The Binduri constituency, which the aspirant, describes as deprived has education as some of the shortcomings. Mr. Mahmood sees conscious efforts towards improving education as the only medium to improve the local economy.
Coming from a deprived community, if I'm given that note, I should be able to identify brilliant but needy ones, just like myself, and do whatever that is humanly and lawfully possible to help them to acquire some of these scholarships. These days, there are quite a number of students, but yet the results is not anything good to write home about. And so I'll be working with the head of the institutions, the Education Directorate, to ensure that this will be a thing of the past.
For JoyNews, Nanaya Ochima reporting.
When some of them dropped out of school, many assumed they would end up like the majority of their peers, lost and useless to society. But these young farmers at Tafo in Kumasi now own a herd of bulls thanks to their small savings and humble beginnings. Their cattle are of excellent quality and one will cost you at least 10,000 cedis. On this Workers' Day, JoyNews' Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin tells the story of these young farmers who are making it beyond the odds.
Though they have not been able to continue their education, they are balancing life by providing what the world needs while impacting their own lives. One of the farmers, Jibril, Nashiru and Taru, takes me on a tour of their small farm, a model farm that says a lot about him and his colleagues in their 20s and 30s. In 2020, Jibril had nothing, but today he currently owns 4 bulls and has already sold some to help support his family.
Since the Nafari Q, benefiting the Nasamish Q, Nagandi Alhamdulillah, Nadigna Samurfasir. It's I have now can help more Popuna.
I've freed many benefits from animal husbandry and have helped my parents care for my younger siblings while they pursue their education. Some of my friends have also joined in the animal rearing because of the numerous benefits. Other university graduates have also joined us.
Don't benefit in the kitchen. Help. It's a university, Sunjay school, Sunjay Nisa, still now
If he had been faint-hearted, he would have given up on life because his teachers had told him that the grey matter between his shoulders could not propel him to success.
Some teachers frequently discourage students by telling them that we can only prosper through formal education, but this did not dampen my determination to pursue my dream of animal husbandry.
Together with his colleagues, they own about 100 bulls on a small plot in the middle of Old Tafo Zongo, a suburb of Kumasi. Ismail Abdallah, another senior high school graduate, is among the owners. Not everyone will be able to pursue formal education, but anyone can work and prosper. Because God is so good, I began by rearing sheep and goats and gradually progressed to cattle rearing. I began with 2 bulls and by the grace of God, I now have 4 bulls with plans to increase the number as time goes on. He says they have no reason to become a burden on society simply because they dropped out or were unable to continue their education.
Our society believes that without formal education, one is unable to progress in life. However, there are numerous occupations that can also lead to success in life. We have some young people here who combine animal rearing and education, and they mostly use the proceeds from their animal sales to pay for their education. For those of us who are adults and married, we rely on the rearing and sale of animals to provide for our families.
cikin kiwo nono ake samu ake biyan bukatu. Alhamdulillah mun gode ma Allah. Kiwo yana da kyau.
The farm has become a model for many people in the area and beyond. Jaif Abdurazak is one of the farmers.
This is what we can do to help the nation. We are not doing it to help ourselves alone, but to help the nation. Whoever finds his child in this job should rather help the fellow than to kill the spirit of that person. We are not doing anything bad here. If you look around, you know that we are doing something good here.
The farmers continue to sell their bulls because the farm has limited space.
We have more than 13 gerke here. Yeah, I'll just say it in our local language, gerke. We have more than 13. And each gerke takes more than 3 people. Some are even 4, lack of land. We don't have space here. So that's why we are managing. If you look around, if you go any gerke, you will see that more than 5 cows are there, 6, 7, but it's not for one person. Every day we're going up and down, up and down. Even to get water for them is always a problem. But still, we are trying our best. So we need prayers, we need support.
Those who previously thought life would treat these young men unfairly because they were unable to further their education would be filled with jealousy once they learn how much the farmers make. We could buy a bull for 3,000 cedis or 4,000 cedis last year and rear it. You could sell it for around 8,000 cedis during Eid al-Adha. However, due to the current exchange rate, they could cost between 10,000 and 12,000 cedis or higher depending on the size of the bull. As a result, bulls are expensive this year. The sky is the limit for these cattle farmers. Everyone, according to them, holds the key to their destiny. What they do with it will determine the course of their lives. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, has indicated the president is still very committed to the fight against illegal mining, despite recent allegations of high-level political interference. He insisted that he still has the backing of the president in his quest to deal with the Galamsey menace. He was speaking to the press on the sidelines of a National Youth Conference on Natural Resource and Environmental Governance.
The National Youth Conference on Natural Resources and Environmental Governance is aimed at including the youth in the planning, implementation, and evaluation of environmental issues. Executive Coordinator for the Youth Network for Development, Chibeze Ezekiel, emphasized the need for promoting public education to raise awareness on the importance of preserving our natural environment.
I think it has to do with the level of awareness or education, because if people are told to plant trees and they don't see the value or the importance, then they will not be motivated or encouraged to plant trees. But if you're able to engage them, let them understand why they must plant trees, I think that will go a long way to get the youth involved to plant trees.
Addressing the media, the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, Samuel Abujinapo, who was the keynote speaker for the event, assured that the government's continuous commitment to the fight against illegal mining is unwavering.
The president will not countenance any interference. If there's one person who's been committed to this fight against illegal small-scale mining, it is President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I've worked with him closely, and I mean closely, and closely. And I do know that his commitment to this fight is totally unflinching. And indeed, it will be scandalous, and it will be far-fetched, and it will be impossible for President Akufo-Addo to interfere in the fight against illegal small-scale mining. Indeed, on the contrary, he's the man who's giving me all the courage, who's giving me all the strength, who's giving me all the backing and authority and mandate to go frontal.
Meanwhile, NP for Medina, Francis Xavier Susu, indicated that the government is being hypocritical in its fight against environmental degradation.
Promises made by government and commitment made by government must be backed with action. Sometimes it is quite disappointing to know that government can make very beautiful commitment to, afforestation, make very beautiful commitment to protection of the environment, and yet at the blind side of all Ghanaians, they become the leaders of the environmental degradation. For me, that is duplicity, and that is hypocrisy, and that is bad faith. That is not taking the people of Ghana seriously.
The conference served as a platform for young green entrepreneurs to showcase their innovative climate and waste management solutions to attract partnerships and investments.
What are these products made from? They are made up of used materials. I don't call them waste. Used materials like cardboard, old newspapers, plastic bottles, disposable spoons, champagne bottles, seashells. Yeah. Can you walk us through your products?
I'm Jessica from Econexus Ventures, and then we are a waste to energy company. We convert agro waste to ethanol for cooking. So we have here the ethanol for, we call it eco gel. Yes, because it's quite jelly-like. So this is made from pineapple waste, cashew apples, and then sugarcane molasses. So this four comes with its specific stove. So without the stove, you can't use the gel, and without the gel, you can't use the stove.
The theme for this year's National Youth Conference was centered on promoting effective youth participation in governance of the natural resources and environmental sector. Esther Nkromet's report read to you.
We're still live on The Pulse, and we're coming to you live from our studios in Kokomlemle. We're taking a break. When we return, there's more for you. Welcome back to The Pulse of the rest of our stories. More than 10 communities along the border with neighboring Togo in the Chirpini district of the Northeast region have been connected to the national grid for the first time since their existence. Residents of the communities say the presence of lighting will improve their children's education and help reduce the domestic workload on women. Member of Parliament Tahido Abdul Razak, who funded the project, says the supply of electricity is part of measures to economically empower the residents and also improve peace and security in the community. Northeast Region correspondent Ilyasa Tanko has more.
The communities are Akromabila number 1 and 2, Penchi, Nandere, Ango, Kulupeni, Yogu, Akonayile, Adibo, Nawieku, Jimbeli, and Omati. Communities are joining the national grid for the first time. Residents of the community said the absence of electricity had over the years adversely affected their social and economic lives as they have to travel long distances to access electric power services, such as charging their mobile phones and using their grinding mills. They are thankful to the MP for coming to their aid.
The light was not around. That time we cannot stay very well. But now that the light is available, we can stay very well and achieve what we want. And we thank Honorable helping us about the light.
Many MPs have come. We didn't see all those things. But now, he who has come on board this now, take care of good things in our place. And we thank him for what he has done.
I must say we count ourselves among the lucky electoral areas, except for one, and there may be another, that is Andotumbu. And then Upper Onjuga may also need extension because of the growth of the community. Over 10 years now, they were connected to the national grid. So some upgradement will be needed around the Onjuga area. But that of Andotumbu will need a new project altogether. So these are the few areas that are still of concern to me and the community.
Extension of electricity to these hard-to-reach communities has been under the auspices of the Member of Parliament, the Honorable Tahidu Abdulrazak, who has over the past week been commissioning the project for the residents. Speaking to Joy News, the Member of Parliament expressed joy that he was able to fulfill a campaign promise he made to the people, adding that he hoped to do more and call for their continued support.
We going around since yesterday to fulfill some of our promises that were made during the 2020 elections, especially the needs of the community, which is in regard to electricity. Let me take it from this level. When I was this year, I connected 30. And then as MP in my second year, I've connected 12. Or third year, I've connected 12 and hope to add more. Yes, I need about 20 or 15 communities more to be hooked to the national grid. In all, we have 182 communities in the district. And then as we speak, if not maybe 100 plus have been connected by now, I can boast of 100 communities or above for now.
At Yogo, one of the at-risk communities on the border with Togo, the chief expressed strong concern about the activities of armed terrorist groups across the border in the neighboring country. He bemoaned the absence of state security and the lack of social infrastructure in the area and called for the extension of security patrols to the community. The MP in response said the chief's concern was legitimate and well received.
I share their sentiment and share their feeling because they are the only last community closer to the Togo. But then my DC was not able to make it up today. And as we return to the district level, I will engage her and the dissect and see how we get more security. But on a serious note, you can see that the custom officers have their structure there. They were waiting for the light. And today that we have gotten them the light, I know by next week onwards, the customs will go and then the immigrations will move there as well.
The Chirponi constituency is witnessing an appreciable level of development, mostly spearheaded by local authorities and donor partners. Armed conflict linked to land and chieftaincy have held back investment into capital projects in the constituency by the central government. The Member of Parliament has therefore appealed to the people in the constituency to embrace peace and live in harmony for development and progress.
My constituency has to do with peace. If we embrace and love peace, we'll be able to develop more. But without peace, we can't grow, we can't develop.
The two traditional chiefs of Jembale, whose rivalry led to the outbreak of intertribal armed conflict between Kokomas and Bimobes in the community, have reaffirmed their pledge to sustain the peace of the area. The two chiefs reassured their commitment to continue working together to ensure absolute restoration of peace, unity, and harmony for the needed socioeconomic development. The chiefs were speaking at an event organized by a Member of Parliament, Oscar Lawal, to recommission a renovated health facility that had been out of service for 16 years now due to communal conflict. Correspondent Ilyasu Tanko again has more.
The renovated health facility originally belonged to and was operated by the Lutheran Church Mission, which came to the area around the 1990s. The facility was established in 1994 by these German missionaries as a source of primary health care in a community and operated under their care until 2001, when they were compelled to abandon the facility and flee after a series of armed conflict between the two ethnic groups in the area. An attempt to revive the facility was again hampered by renewed violence in 2007, and since then the facility had been closed down, depriving the Jimbale community, which is the largest in the Junju-Nanswane district, of access to healthcare services and other basic public services. However, the community on Monday, April 24, witnessed an outbreak of joy and happiness when a Member of Parliament for the area, Oscar Liwa, held a ceremony to recommission the facility after funding its renovations. The mini Deba held at the forecourt of the facility was attended by Chief chiefs and people of the two ethnic groups and was characterized by drumming and dancing by the women in particular who were more than excited to have a health facility at their doorstep. In his address to introduce the Member of Parliament as part of protocols, the District Chief Executive Mr. Conlan Bitien expressed gratitude on behalf of the Assembly to the Lutheran Mission for releasing the facility and to the Member of Parliament for renovating it.
This afternoon, we are very grateful that the Lutheran Mission has started with the structure and our Honourable Member of Parliament has continued and completed the structure for us. Now that we are commissioning the facility to the community, that we try as much as possible and give the assistance that these nurses may need from us so that they can put up their best for us.
Mr. Conlan Bitien called on the people there to continue to bury their differences and give peace a chance for the development of the area.
So I want to plead that if people have given us the hope and that our development factor, the very honorable man who is standing on his feet to ensure that the entire Union Nation district get the development that we deserve, then Jimbari community should be an example place that any other community should copy with regard to peace.
The Member of Parliament, Oscar Liwa, also thanked the Lutheran Mission for the kind gesture and added that he considered the refurbishment of the facility as a great responsibility.
As a son of the land, I do not see any better legacy I could leave behind than providing the needed health care for my people. I am therefore so happy that this dream has become a reality on this day.
The MP also admonished the youth to eschew violence and embrace peace and not allow themselves to be used as tools to destabilize the area.
Peace is what everybody is yearning for. And with peace, as my Honorable DC rightly said, many things will come. Many things like we are witnessing today will manifest. But when there is no peace, no developmental agents will be willing to invest in a conflict-prone area.
Also addressing the gathering were the two former rival traditional chiefs of the community. They both pledged to continue to work together to sustain the peace in the community.
We need to come together. The dispute or the conflict can never save us. It is only destroying us. It's only tearing us apart. So today, we are saying, we the two chiefs are saying that, as for the youth, we won't allow them to misuse us again.
Aside from the refurbishment works, the Member of Parliament also donated medical equipment for the immediate commencement of services and also a motorbike for the operations of the staff. The items were received by the District Director of Health Services, Yakubu Abdulrahman.
The best way we can run this is for us to have our chiefs, their elders, our community volunteers to support our health staff to deliver quality health service.
From Jimbale, Ilyas Sutanko reporting for Joy News.
And as I wrap up the Pulse this afternoon, my name is Aisha Ibrahim. Many thanks for watching. Log on to myjoyonline.com. There's more of the news and updates of all the developing stories. See you again at